Hello, Hellbound friends. We are live. I'd like to welcome you here. I'm chatting today with Chrismer, and we are going to have a decent discussion about his time as a former Muslim, as a former Mormon. You might have been a Muslim. Were you a Muslim?
No, I wasn't a Muslim.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear. Okay, so anyway, a couple of announcements. Uh, just so you know, I am wanting to try soon and upgrade some of my equipment. So in the links below, you will find my PayPal and my Streamlabs link. If you were so kind as to give any amount, that would be amazing, but you don't have to. All my shows are free. They're going to be free forever. So anyway, announcement for tomorrow. We are going to be talking about failed end time prophecies. That should be a lot of fun. And that's going to have Cyrus the Skeptic, Prometheus the Prophet, and Cthulhu's BFF, as well as my constant co host, Mrs. Snarky, who is the love of my life. So, anyway, let's get into the interview. So, Chrismer, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, I guess. I mean, other than the staggering heat outside right now, I'm fine.
Yeah, it's pretty hot here too. Our heat indexes are pretty high. I think 105 was the heat index today. So, Chrismer, you're seen around a lot in chats. You used to be the bane of Godless Engineer's pronunciation skills. Um, I
Yeah,
think he called you Chrismer uh,
yeah,
more
I'll say
times than I can
Chrismer.
count.
Yeah.
But he has finally gotten that down. So today I'm going to just try and not call you a Muslim again and not call you Chrismer.
All right.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I grew up in the South. I'm South Carolinian, born and raised.
I never would have caught that you're from the South.
Around when I was around 8 years old, my dad pulled me out of the Baptist church because they were trying to teach us that evolution wasn't true and the Earth was flat. And when I reached about 12, that's when I started going to church with my mother in the Mormon church. That until around 2004 or 2005, I can't quite recall, is when I finally decided this is all just bullshit. this, this is all bullshit. I mean, I've got enough life experience now. I'm like, I know better than all this that they're teaching us. This is, and ever since then, well, I've been on a life journey. Basically, I've been from researching Shintoism, Taoism. I even researched a little bit of Omioto, which is that's a little bit difficult to explain, but I've researched a lot of different, a lot.
That's like a
Lot
Japanese luxury car, right?
yeah, kinda. It's interesting. It's an interesting thing, Omioto, but we're not getting into that tonight.
Okay.
But yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, I'm researching Buddhism as of right now, but yeah, that's me from then till now.
And so, what would you say you are right now, as
uh,
in beliefs?
I'd say I'm agnostic atheist.
Agnostic atheist, okay. And Steve McRae is not around, so we can go with that without things getting crazy in the chat. Um, so growing up in the Mormon faith, I was Pentecostal, and so faith was constantly just hammered into my skull. Um, was that kind of the same way for you as a young child, or?
Actually, my parents were very liberal minded in this aspect that they didn't want me to believe. Just they didn't want to force me into a belief. They always told me since I was around 12, actually about 10, 11, 12. They said, we'll let you believe whatever you want to believe, and we will love you regardless. And so it really was not forced on to me. It was, I mean, and I love my parents for that. They were very open-minded people.
Okay. I mean, that's awesome. A lot of parents aren't as open minded when it comes to their faith. You know, my parents were they were decent, but when it came to matters of faith, it was believe this or else. So
That's
I
that's that's one thing with my mom though. When my father passed away, she tried to get me to go back to the Mormon church, but she said, "This is," I think her exact wording. I understand that you have questions, and I'm afraid I can't answer them myself. But I think the church may be able to answer to you. But if you don't want to go, I'm not going to force you. And that was pretty much I mean, that was pretty much my lie about I'm not going to force you to believe in something that you don't believe in. That's the way my mom was.
that's really good, and I'm sorry to hear that you lost your father early on. Um, so what was it about the Mormon faith that struck you as odd? Like the first thing?
The first thing about the faith,
Yes.
well, okay, this is something that's a lot of people have contention with. The Mormons have no stance on evolution. So my church actually taught that evolution did happen, but they also believed in Adam and Eve, which is kind of hard to wrap your mind around if
That
when you
is,
really
yeah.
think about it.
So
But they actually taught, say that evolution is a thing that is better left up to the scientists and not to faith.
okay.
And that's not taking, a bold stance on it. That's really like center line. Like we're not going to say it doesn't exist, but we're not going to say it does. And that was one of the things that I questioned really early on was on evolution, and really just I mean I had so many questions as a kid. I just had so many questions like Jesus's resurrection and coming over to the Americas. I I just couldn't buy it.
Yeah, that's that's something that separates Mormons from I think the rest of Christianity. The belief that Jesus came to America and brought the good book to the natives, or were they the?
Yeah, to the natives.
But I mean, were they natives or were they Jews? That's what confuses me when I hear from Mormons that some believe that they were Jews that came to America and then
There were Jews that had come to America years prior, which also that's another thing that's kind of contentious because the okay boat crafting was not I don't know the correct term for it, but the making of boats was not that advanced to where a boat could survive going over the ocean
no.
at that point because they didn't have the metalworking skills necessary for like Vikings. But Vikings came around thousands of years after that happened, and they were the first seafaring people. So I mean, that's another thing that kind of struck me as what.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it runs so counter to science, especially when you said that your church taught that they were leaving like evolution to the scientists. Well, why was archaeology not under that same kind kind of role? Why would they then?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
seems a little odd.
And then there's Noah's Ark. They believe Noah's Ark literally happened, but yeah, not that's another thing.
So I mean, the first thing that you mentioned about not really understanding the creation story, I want to go back to that. Was it? I've heard before some Christians say things like, "Well, evolution is real. humans did go through the process of we went from a ape like being, and then at some point during that, God chose two of these ape like beings and gave them souls and made them humans. Is that kind of the way that it was taught?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
I'm an
They
idiot.
believe Adam and Eve were perfect humans. They thought they were perfect. And being perfect, he only had one rule for them: don't eat, from the tree. Same thing as any other Christian believes. But that's where there's a schism between the Mormon church and any other church, any other, Christian church.
Yeah.
They view Eve eating the apple as a good thing, as them. The reason they say that is because it was them progressing, them leveling up basically from being perfect beings into being able to have children, being able to live out their lives. He so God thus gave them through eating the apple or pomegranate actually is what a lot of people say. It's pomegranate, not apple. Well, whatever. It was a fruit. It was a red fruit.
do we
that,
do we even know the color of it? I don't know what.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. It could have been tomato for all I know.
Like I've heard pomegranate, but
I've heard pomegranate and apple.
The way that it was told to me was pomegranates are like the shape of testicles. And so that could be, and I'm like, I've never stared at a pomegranate enough to see testicles in a pomegranate.
No, me neither. But no, basically, it was Adam and Eve that gave us agency, that gave us free will. At least that's what the Mormons believe. It makes sense if you look at it through their eyes.
Okay.
But it doesn't make sense because evolution is happening at the same time. It's like, what?
Yeah, that's what
I was be happening.
I was just going to ask. It's so in that case, did other humans evolve, but Adam and Eve were perfect? And
they believe Adam and Eve were the first two humans on Earth.
Okay, they were just the first two humans on Earth. And so what happened to all the other ape-like creatures?
That's a good question. I unfortunately don't have the answer to.
That's how religion does. They give you enough of an answer that it kind of makes sense, but not enough that it actually answers all of the questions.
It's like step 1, Adam and Eve. Step 2, question mark. Step 3, step 3, evolution. Step 4, what? Step 5, profit.
And a lot of times you'll go back to one of those steps and they'll fix it. They'll say, okay, well, this is how this works. And then you're like, well, that totally fucked up steps 1 through 3.
Or that adds another step like between those two.
Yeah. Steps. What's going on? Oh, so I mean, you've said that you left the church. I wonder, like, I think you probably mentioned about how old were you when you left?
In my 20s.
You were in your 20s. Did you ever see yourself as a devout Mormon, or?
Not really, because I never went on a mission, and that was one huge point of contention. With me actually being in the church. Because everybody wanted me to go on a mission, and I'm like, no. No.
That sounds a lot like me. I always wanted to do community events, but then people would be like, "Do you want to go to Mexico and paint walls?" And I'm like, "No, that sounds hot." No.
See, with a mission though, you actually get to pick where you want to go. But there's a stipulation. If they already have too many people in that place, you're asked for a second place and a third place, et cetera, until you finally get put where you quote unquote need to be.
I'm guessing that like Fort Lauderdale during spring break time is a pretty sought after mission.
Well, missions actually last 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah, so whenever you go on a mission, you're there for 2 years,
Oh wow. Oh, okay.
and people will actually take overseas missions and actually learn their language and come back completely fluent in that language.
Wow. I uh that's something I live in a town that was created by the RLDS. You know who the RLDS are?
The RLDS.
Yeah, they're the Reorganized Church of Latter-day Saints.
Oh, I've heard that. I've heard that before, but I never looked into it.
One of Joseph Smith's sons started that, and they built our town, and so our town is filled with RLDS people as well as Mormons come here too. And so you do have people that seem to be that's probably their mission, is they're sent here for a couple of years. But like, how does a mission work? Like, you go, you're just there for 2 years, and are you alone?
Okay, how missionaries work. Basically, you go there for, like I said, 2 years, but you have a partner that you're there with. It could be no, it's never someone you know.
Okay.
It's always someone you just meet when you arrive at your destination, basically. And basically, what you do is you ride around on bikes, going from door to door, asking, just like Jehovah's Witnesses do, and they'll come sit, talk with you about the faith, and then you go on to the next house. And sometimes you stop, at your home, do different, things like getting prepared for the next meeting, or getting prepared for a lesson, or prayers and everything. But yeah, that's it's 2 years of that.
Oh wow. So you
Um,
like, what if you hate the person that you're with? Like, are you just stuck there?
I've never heard that happening, to be honest.
Okay,
I've
and
never heard that happen.
are these of the opposite sex or the same sex, or
Same sex always.
so you're with a person of the same sex for 2 years? Um,
Well, sometimes they'll change who the missionaries are partnered with, and yeah, and with women, it's only, I believe, 6 months. Men, it's 2 years. Women, it's 6 months, or
well,
a year. I'm not sure. I
obviously,
can't remember right
because
now.
how can women handle as much as a man?
Yeah, I know, right?
That's just that's silly to me. But
Well, it's a very misogynist.
it's misogynistic.
Kind of link me there a second.
I was saying you kind of cut out on me for a bit there. You were saying it's misogynistic.
Oh yeah, very. The woman's job is to stay at home, take care of the children, and just keep on popping out more babies. That is the true, dirt on Mormonism, is that it's very women women having jobs is not a very good thing.
Okay, and the the 19 kids and counting, are they Mormon? You know,
19, the what now?
there's a TV show
No,
19 Kids and Counting. I
no, they are not Mormon. They're a part of the Quiverful movement.
Oh, okay, okay.
That's
So
an entirely different movement.
that's okay. Well, I do know that Mormons tend to be large families. Are you from a large family, or
Nope. Two boys,
two
me and the
boys?
brother.
And is
That's
your
it.
brother still a part of the faith?
Oh, he never was. He was with whoever his girlfriend was at the time.
Oh,
That's the church he went to,
that sounds like me for a little bit.
and
But
I think right now he's like a Methodist. I think, going with his wife, but I mean, yeah.
okay, so you start having your doubts. You leave the church. Um, you said that you've kind of studied other faiths. Did you find yourself in those faiths for a while, or
Not really. I enjoy the mythicism behind it, to be honest.
okay? What's your favorite religion to study?
Oh God, Shintoism by far.
Okay, why is that?
But all their folklore is just so beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful, to be honest with you. Like, let me think. Damn, I can't think of a good one right now. That's short, you know.
Long stories.
All of them are long stories.
Okay. So right now, I know that you have a gaming channel. But what are your plans for the future?
Oh, I'm going to try to make a skeptic, channel like yours. Only I'm probably going to center around Mormonism for my first, foray into it, and dip my toes in the water, kind of see how it feels.
I think that's a good niche to fall in because there's not very many Mormon content creators. Off the top of my head, uh, Mr. Atheist, he's a former Mormon. I keep wanting to say Muslim, and that we can get to that in just a second because there is something in my mind on that topic. But um, Mr. Atheist is a former Mormon, and Arn Ra is a former Mormon, but I can't think of too many others. And Arn Ra was never really a part of the church. He thought it was ridiculous when he was young. And so I think that would be a good place to go. There's some topics that I'm sure you'll almost have to cover.
Yeah,
Did you ever wear the secret underwear?
yes, I did faithfully every day.
why do they have secret underwear?
That's something I have to know myself. I've never figured that out myself. Like, I think it has to do with modesty because the Mormons are all about modesty. You will never see, well, except for I guess Elijah Dushku, who does wear really high skirts. But besides her, I've never seen a Mormon wear anything higher than a poodle skirt
Okay. Um
or show any cleavage whatsoever.
I mean, but that seems to be taking modesty to a whole new level. Worrying about what's under the already modest
Yeah,
clothes.
yeah. It's it's weird. It's just weird.
So
It's
it's been
it's
said
one of those.
in the chat that Mormon girls give great head, and I don't know if that we can't corroborate that. Um,
I can, I can.
okay, he can. But yeah. So anyway, the other oh, what's the weirdest aspect about Mormonism outside of the underwear?
That it's actually quite polytheistic, but they act like it's a very monotheistic culture.
Isn't
It's
everybody going to become a god?
Yeah, that's pretty much okay. I'll explain it to you this way. Humans are born in basically the celestial temple, which is where you're with God and all the angels and all that good shit. And you were sent down to Earth to inhabit a human body. Whenever a woman gives birth, your spirit goes into that body, and you pass through this veil. That's how I was explained. It's a veil,
Okay.
and basically it gets rid of all your memories of when you were up with Elohim and on Kolob. Kolob is the moon that Elohim, that God lives on. By the way,
Why does God live on a moon instead of a planet? Is he just that humble?
I, I never figured that out either. He just lives on a moon somewhere in space.
Now, like in Mormonism, uh, are Jesus and God the same person or no?
No, no, they are two entirely distinct beings.
And I
They
have
do.
heard that maybe Jesus and the devil are like related.
That whole cartoon, it's the cartoon you're talking about, isn't it?
Well, there is the cartoon that goes around.
That's the cartoon was created by Catholics in order to
Oh,
diminish Mormonism.
damn Catholics.
Damn, Catholics ruined
KC,
everything.
you should be ashamed.
But yeah, Lucifer and Jesus were. It's kind of it's really hard to explain that relationship. He's an angel that defied God, started the war, but all that insanity,
So
and yeah,
then what's Jesus if he's not the same as God? Is it like
Jesus is God's son.
Jesus is God's son?
Yeah, God came down, impregnated Mary, and they
So,
had Jesus.
so did God have sex with Mary?
Some sects say that he did. Some sects say that he didn't. It depends on what church you actually were taught at,
Okay.
because many teach different things. And Southern Mormons go through a different learning process than say Western Mormons, especially the ones in Utah.
Okay. So I mean, is it kind of along the same lines as are there different denominations in Mormonism or are they all the same but they just
They're
teach different things?
they're all the same, but they some of them teach differently. Yeah,
Okay. So would you find Mormon churches where they teach young
yeah.
earth creationism and things like that?
I want to answer Native Atheist question real quick.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Mary did give consent.
Mary,
It wasn't God rape. It wasn't holy rape. It was consented.
but Mary was also younger than any of the ages of consent in today's society. So
Yeah, she was like, I think it was 9, or was it 14? I
I
can't
think it
remember.
was between 12 and 14. At least that's what I had been taught. 9 is the age of the Aisha,
Oh,
who
Aisha. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
and that
Yeah.
does kind of get me to my next topic for you. Um, like it's always seemed from the outside looking in, Mormonism almost looks exactly like how Islam started as well. Um,
Well,
a lot of the
uh,
stories are fairly the same.
well, I would say Mormons that was started in the 1800s.
Okay.
Muslims was started in, let me see, way back just a couple hundred years after Jesus first died on
Okay.
the cross. Which actually, this is very. I want to just sidestep here a little bit over into um, Japanese Christianity. This is just something I learned while I was researching, Shintoism. There was there is this story in the small town of Aomori, Japan, where Jesus actually traveled to Japan and met, a Japanese family and became, basically part of their family. And Isukiri, which would be Jesus's step, well, not step, half brother rather. I guess half brother. I don't know how to put it, but he traveled over to Egypt, and he was in Rome rather, not Egypt. God damn it! And it was Isukiri that was put up on the cross and not Jesus. And Jesus actually has a graveyard with Japanese. It's a Japanese tombstone labeling Jesus's place of death, and he lived to be over 100 years old in Japan.
I mean, that seems completely completely
I,
logical.
I just thought that was an interesting little sidestep because, I mean, it goes into the whole Japanese mythicism, how Japanese Christians are completely different from our Christians. But sorry,
No,
sorry about
no,
that.
no, you're fine. That's pretty funny actually.
Yeah, it is.
Thinking thinking along those lines, it's like, okay, Christianity came to Japan,
Yeah,
um, and then they came up with their own version of how the events took place.
yeah.
Um, so it's and that's what I'd like to say. Like, no matter what, um, Christians do not follow the same religion, regardless of if you're
Oh,
in the same denomination or if you're in different denominations. Even people who go to the same church and sit under the same teachings, when they go home, they're following a completely different Christianity than people just one pew over, because
yeah,
everyone is picking and choosing what things they accept and what things they deny.
yep.
Um, the only time, like, you'll hear uh, people say, well, the majority of the religious people in the world are Christian. And it's like, yeah, but you don't even include probably 95% of those people as being Christians in day to day life.
Well, actually, I think there are more Buddhists than there are Christians right now.
There probably are. Buddhism, it kind of gets ignored because it's
Yeah, a very pacifist
yeah,
religion,
it's
except for whenever they get angry at something enough to start burning people. Yeah,
yes, yes. Um,
burning people.
like like Buddhist, it doesn't seem like there are some violent Buddhists
Yeah,
in countries
yeah,
where Buddhism and Islam kind of meet,
yeah.
and the Hindu religions meet. There has been violence on both sides of those things, but it seems like when we're talking about the three Abrahamic faiths, people will say, well, the majority of those are Christian, so that must be the right one, and yet
Oh yeah,
they don't accept 90% of those people or 95% of those people or even 99% of those people as
yeah,
actually being Christians. They're Christians in statistics only.
yeah. Because they all believe in totally different things.
Yeah, I mean, you were raised Mormon. Um, the vast majority of Christianity sees Mormonism as this weird cult-like faith.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if you remember, like, the 2012 election. There
Mitt
was
Romney.
Mitt Romney was the Christian choice, but there was a lot of evangelicals that were not very happy with that because Mormonism is a cult, and he was going to bring the secret underwear to the White House. And
Yeah, yeah.
now, one of the other things about Mormonism that I wanted to ask you about, I've heard that they like I might be baptized Mormon.
Do I know?
Like, even if I was never went to a Mormon church or anything like that,
Oh,
when I die,
baptism for the dead.
I could be baptized as a Mormon and supposedly get into Mormon heaven.
Baptisms for the dead. Yes, I've actually done that twice in my
You've
life.
baptized the dead.
Yeah. Okay. What? Okay. We don't actually go out and dig people up
Well, that's
and then
good.
baptize them. It's a bad name for that. Baptism for the dead is a bad name for that. Basically, you are baptized in their stead. You take their name basically and say I can't remember the actual prayer. There's an actual prayer that goes with it that you basically say, I, Chris Evans, that's my name, by the way. Oh.
Okay.
Do take upon the name, blah, 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 and baptize in this person's honor. And basically, what Mormons believe is that then they're then given the opportunity in well, they wouldn't be in heaven; they'd be in the celestial kingdom, waiting. Or no, not celestial. That's celestial, telestial, terrestrial, and basically Mormon version of purgatory. I'll just say
Okay.
that's the easiest way of saying it because I can't remember the actual term for it. Reese C might actually could tell us, but basically you're in purgatory waiting, judgment, and you can then, as a spirit, accept it and then go on to the celestial temple, which is the highest. No, the telestial kingdom. You would then go to the telestial kingdom, which is the second highest, in ranking of heavens, basically. Yeah, that's a whole nother story. Let me just get in. I'll get into that real quick right
Okay.
now. There's three different levels of heaven. There's the celestial temple, the telestial temple, and the terrestrial temple. Celestial temple is where God, Jesus, and the Holy Ghost live, and basically that's if you're a really good Mormon and you do all the ruls and you're a really good person to everybody and you're not an ass on this world, you get to go live with God, Jesus, and the Holy Ghost.
Okay.
Telestial kingdom is for those who, you know, didn't become Mormon in their life and decided, okay, I'll take, this offer and I'll go, to heaven. And basically, it's filled with people who were either not Mormons or, you know, became Mormon after they were dead. God, my mouth's dry. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
And terrestrial temple is for all the bad people. It's not actually like hell like or anything, but it's like just you exist.
Okay,
It's outer
so
darkness.
you exist in
Like Reese said, outer darkness.
okay. So then basically you're given a like if you guys or not you guys now because you're not a Mormon anymore, but if a Mormon baptizes me after I die and Mormon heaven is real, then I get another chance
Yeah. Well, you don't
after I
get to
die.
go to you don't go to the celestial temple, but you will go to the telestial kingdom.
So there'll be like a red line that I can't cross. It'll be like, no,
Yeah.
no, only cool people over here.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
It's like the heaven that's there, but not cool enough to be with God and His gang.
Oh, okay. So you don't get to go to Kolob.
No, you don't get to go to Kolob and go and make your own little planets and everything.
Well, okay. So yeah, let me try and figure this out. So you get to create other planets.
Yeah,
Um
yeah.
so like
That part's
how does
kind of insane.
creation work in Mormonism? Like did God have a wife or something and they populate a planet like they made Adam and Eve?
Not so much. No, God created Earth from His own, on His own. Uh,
So is God the
that part,
first God or is there gods above God? Like was God
God was the first. Elohim was the first.
okay. So God was the
Oh,
first.
that's what Mormons call God, by the way, is Elohim, even though Elohim is Hebrew, literally Hebrew for gods.
Yeah, it's the plural.
It's the plural, which makes no goddamn sense, but okay, we'll run
Oh,
with it.
Reese is saying God had a
Oh, yeah,
wife.
God did have a wife. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. I messed up there.
Oh, you're fine. Um,
Like I said, it's been forever, man. I mean, yeah, I do retain a lot of knowledge, but unfortunately, human knowledge is still the human memory.
so do you get to get kinky in heaven? Like, is there still sex in heaven? Because like if you're in heaven for eternity and you have a wife up there, after like 1,000 years, you
That's
guys are
how
gonna
you. That's how you populate other worlds is having endless celestial sex.
like you guys are gonna be hitting each other. Like you're gonna get smashed in the junk with a sledgehammer just to get off. Like after 1,000 years, you're gonna be more kink than another freaking atheist. You're than Dawn. You're gonna be the kinkiest of the kink.
Well,
Oh
yeah, there
man.
is this endless celestial sex like that little cartoon said. Yeah, kinda. kind of, sort of, but not as we view sex here.
Endless celestial sex. That sounds tiring.
With different women too.
What? Wait, wait. Where are you finding the other women? Like, are they just up there, or like,
No,
are
I'm
you
joking.
creating them for you to have sex with?
Well, actually, this is how it works in the Mormon mind. Whenever you get married in the Mormon church, for one, you have to both be Mormon and you both have to take the same vows.
Okay,
You get married in the temple. You don't get married though. It's not getting married, it's getting sealed.
getting
And what happens
sealed.
is, yeah, getting sealed. You basically pledge a vow that you will stay loyal to your wife slash husband, both here on earth and in heaven above.
Wow.
So whenever you die, say your spouse doesn't die until 10 years after you die, you get reunited in heaven at that point.
You're just wanking it up there for 10 years.
Yeah, you're just sitting up there 10 years just wanking it like, God damn it, when that bitch gonna
When's she gonna die? Die, woman, die! Come on. I was also gonna say I have seen a couple dogs get sealed before, and it didn't look like a good situation. Looked kind of painful.
Yeah, that does look kind of painful. My dog actually did that once while
So,
we were on vacation at that, so our neighbor had to rectify the situation. He jumped the fence and pulled them apart.
oh
The
man.
Yeah, it wasn't very. The dogs didn't like it. He didn't like it. Nobody was liking it at that point.
Oh, that's horrifying. That's just oh, that it just sends cringes through my body. Um, I was gonna say Reese in the chat said if a Mormon's wife dies on Earth, he can remarry, and both wives will be him with him in the afterlife.
True,
Polygamist, but
true.
I mean they were polygamist until like the early
Okay,
20th century, weren't they?
yeah, they were. The only reason that changed was because the laws of the land changed. That's one thing about Mormonism that I was taught, like very early on. You obey the laws of the land first, then the law of God.
That's
The laws of the land supersede the laws of God. But there are stipulations to that. But I mean, always.
that I was gonna say that's almost the exact opposite of what I was taught growing up. Was God's law comes first, and then's man's law. Um,
I'm guessing they didn't want to get arrested.
yeah, not wanting to get arrested and thrown in jail is a pretty good way to see that God wants something to end.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd definitely say so.
But I mean, that's kind of not fair because if you're a guy that was married to like 30 women in the 1800s, you have 30 wives for eternity.
Yeah.
Now, if you die, you have one, and what if she's not a very nice person? Like what if you die like what if she dies and
There's no divorce. There's no divorce.
she dies and you're like, "Oh man, freedom finally." And you marry a really nice woman and you die and you get up there and you're stuck with that horrible awful person for like 10 years or 20 years until your other wife dies. And then when your other wife gets there, what happens? I'm sure there's jealousy, or or are they just like
Well,
okay with it?
they're just okay with it in heaven because it's heaven.
Free dick for all in heaven.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's also, Reese just brought up a good point. Up until 1978, black people could not hold the priesthood because of the sins of Ham.
Yeah. Oh, so Mormons followed the curse of Ham.
Yeah, Mormons definitely followed the curse of Ham.
My grandfather taught the curse of Ham when I was growing up. It wasn't a widely accepted thing in the faith that I was raised in, but some of the older people still believe that. Um, but yeah, up until Jimmy Carter in 1978, could they
No,
even
Cain. It was the curse of Cain. Sorry.
Now the priesthood in Mormonism, you don't have actually like a set group of like ministers, do you?
We have bishops. Thank you very much.
It's like revolving, isn't it?
What you mean
Well,
by that?
like trying to think. Like
Because I had the same bishop for my entire, you know, stay in the church. I had the same bishop.
okay, that it might be different between the RLDS and the Mormons. Because in the RLDS they had a revolving bishopry. I think that's the way you say plural bishops. Or I say
I
bishops.
just say bishops. I
Yeah,
just say bishops.
I like bishopry. Bishopry sounds fun. Yes. So in the bishopry, which is probably not a word, but I've made it a word today, they would revolve ministerial duties. Um,
Okay, what's
so
that?
so that's not the way it is in Mormonism. You just had like the same bishop, which was kind of like a minister.
Yeah, we had one bishop basically.
Okay.
Melchizedek priesthood, as Reese just pointed out.
So that's going back to even before Judaism, when Abraham gave a tenth of his spoils to Melchizedek.
Melchizedek, yeah.
Melchizedek, Melky.
Melky.
Yeah.
It's pronounced Melchizedek.
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 Milk his dick. Did I say that right? Milk his dick. Milk his dick.
Melchizedek. That's a good one.
All right.
I haven't heard that one before.
So the milk his dick priesthood.
God damn.
How did you become a part of that?
Oh, that's involved. That's quite involved.
Okay.
You first have to go on a mission, then you have to I think the age of the Melchizedek priesthood is I can't remember what age it was that you have to be to get in the Melchizedek priesthood. But the only way to get there, you have to go on a mission. You have to um, go to the temple. It's long and drawn out process where you take this vow, and it's kind of secret to anyone who isn't in the Melchizedek priesthood.
Is it written on the inseam of the underwear so you can
No,
remember it?
no, but it's kind of they actually have secret handshakes, secret hand signs, everything. And I'm just like Reese. I only held the ironic priesthood.
So you weren't a part of the Melchizedek
No,
priesthood.
I was just
You
the
were
ironic.
the ironic priesthood. Okay. Um, so I guess you've been out. I'm not sure how old are you now.
38.
38 years old. You're older than me, which makes me happy because not many people are on this platform. Um,
Yeah.
and so, what has been your experience since getting out?
Uh, Normalcy.
Normalcy.
Yeah, I'm a hermit by nature. I stay home. I rarely go out. So,
I think most of us, or not most, I'd say a lot of us on YouTube are very, uh, what's the word? I'm
not
introverted.
yeah,
We're,
introvert.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're
I'm
not
very introverted.
extroverted. I don't go a lot of places, and so I enjoy getting on here and having these chats because it lets me
Yeah,
meet people that are interesting and fun to talk to. Um,
same here. Same
would
here.
would you see your former faith? Would you see Mormonism as harmful?
Harmful. It's quite misogynistic. It's very racist.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, until 1978, black people couldn't even hold the Aaronic priesthood. Aaronic priesthood. God damn it! I don't say ironic. Black people could not join the priesthood. Period.
We can
Until
just say they were
78.
both moronic priesthoods that had moronic
Yeah,
rules, and so okay. Um,
I'd say it's a little. I wouldn't say they're a cult necessarily, but harmful. And yeah, then there's like Darren just pointed out the rampant homophobia. Yeah, I'd say kind of harmful. Yeah, I wouldn't.
Okay,
It's
so
hard to.
let's talk about that for just a little bit, because I have had Mormons tell me it's okay to be gay, you just can't have sex.
Yeah,
And to me,
there's
that means it's not okay to be gay. Like
exactly.
maybe there's gay people that enjoy like things that a straight person might not enjoy, but I'm pretty sure the major part of being gay is that you're sexually attracted to the opposite or the same sex.
Yeah,
So not being able to have sex with who you're attracted to seems like you can't be gay.
yeah. Well, see, I'm also bisexual, so I kind of get that. Like it kind of it strikes home with me a little bit.
Okay.
So, so yeah,
It's,
that that's denying half of my person, basically.
I want to say there's a channel out there on YouTube titled "The Gay Mormon," and
Oh
it's
God,
someone
yes.
who is gay and Mormon but does not have sex with other uh, gay men. And so he spreads these things like we're completely open to homosexuality. I just gave up my sexual life for God. Like no, you're not open.
No, you're not. You're not. You really aren't. If that's part of being gay is having sex with men or with women if you're a woman, you're gay.
Yeah.
But that's part of being gay. That's like 90% of
And
being gay.
if you've never checked it out, there is a channel out there as well called What Mormons Believe. Um,
Yeah, I've
and
seen it.
on that channel, she said once that Mormons are not against gay marriage at all. Gay people are perfectly okay. They can get married. They just have to marry a member of the opposite sex,
Yeah,
which is not gay marriage.
it's not gay marriage.
It's like, how are
It's
you
like
going through these mental loopholes and going, we're not homophobic.
I was actually looking at that video thinking that might be my first video, but it's so short that I'm like, I'd probably do like 5 or 6 of those little videos because they're all like 2 minutes long.
Hey,
So
trust me, a 2 minute video can end up being a 10 to 20 minute video if it's dumb enough when you
true,
respond to
true.
it. Um, and there is a lot to unwrap with that because
Yeah, that was one of the first videos I was looking at. Actually, to be honest with you,
the
I,
the
I was just looking at it the
whole
other night.
the whole idea that you're sitting there going, we're not homophobic. We're perfectly okay with gay people. You just can't have gay sex, and we're okay with black people. They just weren't human until 1978. Like,
Yeah,
what the fuck is wrong with you?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I misspoke earlier. Not the curse of Ham, but it was the curse of Cain that
Curse of Cain.
turned. Yeah,
Well,
sorry about that.
the curse of Canaan.
No,
Cain
Cain.
Cain was the son of Adam,
Yeah,
and he was cursed. But then
yeah,
after the flood, um,
yeah.
Ham, one of Noah's sons, touched his
Cain.
dad's dick or something,
No, he
and
Ham saw his dad having sex with his mother, and yeah,
yeah, and then Ham's son Canaan gets
yeah,
cursed to be
curse
a,
with
a
black skin.
servant or whatever, and it's just But
There's a lot of
well, and I mean, it's pretty inherently racist to look at the Native American people and say, yeah, all of your culture, that's just a lie. You're Jews.
yeah.
I mean, am I wrong?
You're
You're,
all ancient Jews. You're ancient Jews.
you're
That's
just like, you guys are Jews. I mean, you don't look anything like Jews, but you're Jews.
God, God damn. That still makes me laugh. That just the idea that all the people over here, all the Native Americans well, not all of the Native Americans, just one set of those Native Americans were Jews that traveled over in boats when boat technology wasn't even present.
Well, but weren't there? I thought there were multiple sects of Jews out over here because I thought there was good
Yeah,
Jews and bad Jews, and like there
there was
was Jaredites. Is it Lamanites
Lamanites,
and Nephites, right?
Nephites, yeah,
So there's like
magic boats.
three groups of like Jewish Native Americans. One of them was good. Was it the Lamanites that were good, or was it the Jaredites? I can't remember.
The Nephites.
The Nephites were good. I was wrong. You see, I had three choices, and I picked the two wrong ones.
And the Lamanites were the bad ones.
Okay. The Lamanites were the bad ones.
The Nephites were good.
And so, I mean, what happened to all of their culture and history and artifacts and everything like that? How does the Mormon faith line that up?
It doesn't. It doesn't.
It just
doesn't.
It just doesn't. It's just we can't explain it. That's just how it is.
Yeah, that's just how it is. We can't explain it.
And that's not really any different than mainline.
Mind you, there were two versions of the Book of Mormon.
There were?
Yeah. One version where if you watch the South Park episode, they are actually quite. I mean, it's actually really accurate. It's frighteningly accurate on that part. So he was looking at golden tablets that are in a hat, using these things called seer stones. I'll just say this: Joseph Smith was a con man.
Yes.
He was a con man. He didn't get away with it once. And as soon as he got out of jail, that was his next get rich scheme, was create a religion.
I mean, it's a good plan if you got a bunch of gullible people around you.
Yeah. And more gullible than Hicks.
It's just, to me,
you got a bunch of farmers that don't know any better, and you're from New York, so I mean you're well traveled, and you're pretty good at spinning yarn. I mean,
so like it just seems like it is harmful. It seems like a nice faith. Like Mormons are known for their kindness.
Yeah, they are nauseatingly kind.
But it seems like the faith itself is almost inherently harmful because you're teaching people completely untrue history. Which isn't any different than any of the other Christian faiths. Like there's absolutely no evidence of the Exodus.
I'll give the Mormons this: the words of wisdom is actually good for you. The words of wisdom, if you don't know, it takes parts out of the Bible that talks about, health and, how to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Which basically there's this whole thing where people say, well, you can't drink Pepsi or Coke if you're, in the Mormon church. I'm like, no, Pepsi and Coke are fine. It's not the caffeine. It's okay. You can't have hot drinks. That means sweet tea, coffee, stuff like that. You just can't have that. And you also can't smoke. You can't do drugs. And let me see, what else can't you do? You can't smoke, can't do drugs, can't masturbate, which that's very unhealthy, but still. It basically says treat your body as a temple.
Okay.
And it actually lays out saying, don't eat too much red meat, don't, everything in moderation. It even says you can drink alcohol, just limit how much you drink.
Okay.
But most Mormons won't drink alcohol simply because they say, well, if I'm not going to drink that much, I might as well just not drink it at all.
Yeah.
And coffee, because in the curing method, they use tannic acid, which is also used to tan leather. That's their justification of not drinking tea or coffee.
Huh. Okay. I mean, okay. But
Makes sense if you think
yeah,
about it, because
it kind of does. I get it. I couldn't live without coffee. I
alcohol, I can understand not drinking too much alcohol.
yeah. I mean, I can understand doing those things in moderation.
Or smoking. Smoking is actually bad for you, but I smoke anyway. So fuck
Yeah.
it.
Well, what's funny is the RLDS church that I was talking about earlier. They're now the Community of Christ Church. Uh,
Okay.
and when they changed to Community of Christ, they decided that homosexuality wasn't a sin anymore.
Uh,
But smoking still was. And so it was a running joke that you couldn't smoke a cigarette, but you could now smoke a penis.
smoke a dick.
Yeah. You can't have coffee, but you can have cum.
That cock.
It's it's strange.
You can have cock soup too.
You could have cock soup. Yes. Cock soup. That's the best recipe I've ever made.
Yep.
Well, Chrismer, we've gotten to an hour. I usually try to keep the interviews about to an hour. But I want to say I had a lot of fun here, and I think I learned some stuff, even though the stuff that I learned seems so far out there, that it's like, oh, okay, was this a Twilight Zone episode or, and
we didn't
I
even
mean,
get into how the Mormons are a very polytheistic religion, if you really think about it.
well, we kind of touched on it because we talked about how everybody kind of becomes their own
Yeah.
god.
True.
But
yeah,
I've had a great time tonight, and I hope that you'll come back for another interview sometime, especially when you get your channel up and running. I would love to have you on for that. And is there anything you'd like to leave the audience that's been watching us with?
just be yourself, and yep, just be yourself.
All right, and everybody, there is a link to Chrismer's gaming channel in the description below. Also, as I said before, I am trying to make up some money to improve my equipment because I have a crappy laptop that I'm using, and it kind of bogs down at times, especially during streams. So if there's anything that you might be able to give to that, my PayPal and Streamlabs account is in the description below. Also, make sure to be there for the failed end time prophecy stream tomorrow from 11 to 1 p.m. CDT. It's going to be a great and hilarious stream. And as always, we live in a crazy world, but please don't panic.